As most of us celebrate Christmas this morning, we're exploring the state of Christianity as we head into a new decade. Religion in the U.S. seems to be on the decline. The Pew Research Center says 65% of American adults describe themselves as Christians. That's down from 12%. That's down 12% over the past decade.
Well, the Most Reverend Michael Curry is presiding bishop of the Episcopal Church. He gained international fame last year after delivering the sermon at Prince Harry and Meghan Markle's royal wedding. We remember that. Bishop Curry is here with the role of religion and the true meaning of Christmas. Good morning, and it's nice to have you back in the studio.
Good to be back.
I remember you at the wedding where you said it's the love of two people that brought all of us together in this room. It was such a beautiful sentiment. So let's focus on Christmas, because I think for a lot of people, they think it's a day of material gift giving, a day of getting things that you don't want or don't need,
right?
One of those,
re-gifting,
or that you're longing for. But what do you want people to know about the real meaning of this day?
You know, the real meaning of Christmas is that God made a decision to show us what we mean to God. There's a text in the New Testament in John's Gospel: God so loved the world that He gave His Son. That's His only Son.
Yeah.
That's the key to the meaning of Christmas. First of all, it's about love. Secondly, love is about God. And thirdly, love is about giving, not about taking. And if you construct a life based on that kind of love, sacrificial, unselfish, that's about giving, about seeking the good and the welfare of others, sometimes even before my own unenlightened self-interest, then that kind of love is not a sweet sentiment. That kind of love is a game changer in all human relations.
So how do you encourage people to bring love into their everyday lives when so many people are so polarized?
We do it with a podcast, which is what he has.
Yes, he does.
There you go.
Do it with a podcast.
It's called The Way of Love.
Oh, The Way of Love.
It's called The Way of Love.
Well, then you're the right person.
It's easy to remember.
The love question,
Actually,
yes.
You know, I mean, I think in the end, love is not a sentiment. It's a commitment, and therefore it's a decision.
It's a commitment.
It's a
decision.
commitment, right?
Like
because a sentiment, I mean, there's a difference between loving and liking.
Yes.
Liking is an emotive reaction. Love is a committed response. It is a decision. So I almost have to kind of have an altar call every day and decide I'm going to live the most loving, in the most loving way possible, which means I'm going to try to be as unselfish as I can all day long and seek your good, seek your welfare, seek your well-being. Speak to folk when I'm getting, we were talking about getting off and on airplanes. I try to speak to the flight attendants, speak to the pilots, speak to the person sitting next to you.
Well, it sounds good it sounds good, but in practice, when people are really irritating and not as accommodating and not as loving, how do you do that? How do you navigate that?
Well, honesty doesn't hurt.
Okay.
Honesty doesn't hurt. That sometimes, if someone is inappropriate, say, well, I appreciate what you're saying, but I can't go there right now. That's okay. Loving is not soft and sentimental.
Yeah.
Loving is actually seeking what is good and what is the greatest good possible in any situation.
You're supposed to love thy neighbor and also love your family, but right about this time of year, sometimes the conversations between neighbor and
not so
neighbor
lovable.
or family are not so
and
lovable.
even family.
And sometimes, believe it or not, sometimes politics has been known to get into the picture. And we're at a moment in this country right now where people don't love each other very much, it would seem. How do you take what you're telling us about love and apply it to that bigger picture of the country at large?
The truth is, if you want to find common ground, you've got to go to higher ground, which means you've got to have a set of values and principles that you are committed to living by, and living by those values and principles and applying them constantly. If you think about just in our country, the ideals, the principles that this country was founded on, even when the country didn't live it, the words were true. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all people, all men are created equal. Now, the people who wrote that didn't live fully into it, but it is an ideal worth striving for.
Everybody thinks they're going for the ideal and the other guy's the enemy, right?
No.
Everyone thinks they're in the right and they're the ones on higher ground.
Well, and I say to my friends who are Christian, just using Christians as an example, well, last time I checked, the one whose name was Jesus, in the 22nd chapter of Matthew, when he was asked what is the greatest commandment in all of God's legal edifice, he went back and reached back to Deuteronomy and Leviticus and said, you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. Love your neighbor as yourself. On these two, love of God, love of neighbor, hang all the law and the prophets. That's like saying everything that God has intended, everything the Bible is about, everything the religious enterprise is about. That is the supreme court, the supreme judgment, love of God, love of neighbor. If it's not about love, it's not about God.
Yeah, more than half of Americans now, Bishop, say they go to church just a few times a year.
Sure.
Is it important for you to get more people to go to church?
Well, you could say it's important for business, but no. I mean, you know what's really important?
Yeah.
What?
Community.
Yeah.
It is in community, one, that we can often discover God most profoundly, even when community is a headache, which it often can be.
Yeah.
But the truth is, we actually need each other. Christmas can sometimes
Say
be a
that
time...
again. We actually need each other.
We actually need
I think
each
people
other.
need to be reminded of that.
We do. And we are at our best when we come together. I mean, God forbid, we don't want any more catastrophes, but one of the things that I do is go around and visit in areas where there have been disasters. And I go in afterward. And one of the things people consistently say is that when the flood came, when the winds came, everything was stripped away, and all we had was each other and God. That's it. And the truth is, that's all we need. Each other and God. What happens is we buy into the illusion of life to think that all this other stuff is what we need.
I hope we don't have to wait for the floods to learn that lesson.
Well, that's what I'm hoping too. Maybe Christmas is a reminder.
Yeah. Bishop Curry, thank you very much.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you, Bishop.
Bless you.